Good evening and welcome back to the Rory Talks Football channel, your daily Arsenal news updates, debates and my opinions. If you are new to the channel, please do subscribe. We're on the way to 12,700 subscribers. And of course, please do click that like button. It massively helps out, especially if you click the like button early in the stream so that we can get more people in. I hope you're all doing well. It is a Monday, so you're probably not. There's been some, boring news today. And boring is, when you're not talking about football, you're talking about law and legal stuff and accounting, because that's what football has become. But we will get into it because Arsenal's name's getting dragged through the mud from some of these journalists. These journalists that I find quite interesting, their motivations when they're writing articles, and perhaps if you look at where they go on their next holiday, the story might write itself. Outside of that, I want to talk about Martin Odegaard. Where is he? Do we know how long it's going to be until he's back? And are we okay without him? It's a question I've seen recently based on our performances. And, well, we're doing fine without Odegaard. Well, we'll talk about whether or not that's true and where we're at this season in general. We'll just have a general little chit-chat about where we actually are this season. But look, plenty of you here. Junior Films, Anu Brata, Vivi Vlad, Lord Ferguson of Aberdeen, Ross Lawman, If Nudal, Saliba, Woodsy, Goon, Matthew Logical Nonsense, Jakob Ryan, Unknown, Dark Arts, Hannah, Thomas Willis, Pekka, Smithy, James, and many, many more. But we will start with this news coming out from City's legal case. It's so boring. It's so boring. But I guess we have to talk about it. Rory, I don't get this City stuff. Simple terms, what does this mean for Arsenal? Also, what punishment will City get? That's all I care about. So, first of all, right, this has nothing to do with the 115 charges. That is the biggest This, 115 charges is over here. That legal battle is happening now, in court now. This thing happened earlier at the start of September originally. That was when, in fact, it might have even been August when the court case was. This thing was Man City taking the Premier League to court. Not the Premier League taking Man City to court. Man City taking the Premier League to court. And it's all to do with the APT rules, Associated Party Transaction Rules. These were rules that the Premier League introduced in December 2021 as realistically a reaction to Saudis buying Newcastle. The Premier League shit the bed and they introduced these new APT rules. And the idea of those rules at a very basic level was to make sure that teams, in the way that we all know Man City did when Man City got taken over with their Etihad sponsorship, to make sure that teams couldn't fund themselves through sponsorships which were inflated. So way back in the day, Man City's first sponsorship from Etihad, and obviously Etihad, the ownership of that is from the same state that they're from, and it's basically the same ownership. Man City's Etihad sponsorship was massively above what would have been considered a fair market rate, right? And the idea of a fair market rate is if an actual company that wasn't owned by the same people was going to sponsor Man City, what would that sort of sponsorship be worth? Bear in mind, Man City's Etihad sponsorship, bear in mind, this was before Man City had won anything. This was when Man City were battling it out in the relegation zone of the Premier League, had won nothing, didn't have a fan base, didn't have a global fan base. Their Etihad sponsorship was bigger than Arsenal's Emirates sponsorship for the same thing, for shirt rights, stadium rights. Their Etihad sponsorship was bigger than Arsenal's when Arsenal had just been to a Champions League final. We've been invincible. So that was ridiculous, right? And the Premier League were concerned that Newcastle would do the same, but to the tune of even more money. So that's where they were. And they rushed through these new rules, which basically said for any sponsorship, the Premier League had to agree that it was a fair market value, that the value of the sponsorship was fair. And in 2023, and by the way, that was voted on by the Premier League clubs. Anything that gets passed in the Premier League clubs have to vote on it. Man City and Newcastle both abstained from the vote, so they didn't even vote against it. I think there were actually 3 clubs that did vote against it, and the other clubs all voted for it, so it passed. That was in 2021. In 2023, Man City had 2 different sponsorships blocked by the Premier League. 2 sponsorships from one I think was some Abu Dhabi something or other, and one was Emirates Palace, right? Oh yeah, maybe it was June. It was a while ago. So Man City had 2 sponsorships blocked because the Premier League believed that the sponsorships were way above the value that they should have been. Man City then decided to put a legal battle together. And if you actually look at that legal battle today, there's a 175-page document, and Man City's lawyers basically threw everything at the wall. Every amount of shit they could find, they threw it at the wall, and they hoped that some of it would stick. And some of it did stick, and this is the important point. So you'll see in the media, they're all saying, or they started saying, Man City win, huge case, massive win for Man City, huge blow for the Premier League, etc., etc. If you actually look at the legal document and then you look at what the Premier League themselves have said, the majority of the things that Man City threw at them were rejected. There were a handful of things that they won, and therefore technically they won the legal case. It's called like a partial win. Now, this is where Arsenal comes into it. One of the main things that they won on was that one way that clubs kind of generate money, I suppose, is through shareholder loans. That is where you take a loan from your shareholders. Arsenal have around £200 million worth of shareholder loans. So in our finances, there's 200 million quid, which is paid for by these loans from shareholders. The issue is those loans are often either zero interest, there's zero interest to be paid back on the loan, or the loans don't even have to be paid back. And Man City's argument was, that's not fair market value. Arsenal Football Club could not go to a bank or an entity or anyone else that wasn't associated with Arsenal and get a loan which involved zero interest or not having to pay it back. And that is a fair point. That is a legitimately fair point. You wouldn't be able to do that. And that was one of the big points that they won on, because the judiciary panel agreed that that was an example of, unfair market value, and that therefore the rules that the Premier League could put in place were unfair because they didn't cover everything. And that is now what is being used against Arsenal. So when you hear people talking about, you'll hear journalists, if you see it on Twitter or whatever, Arsenal are in trouble, Arsenal are in danger. We're not. That's the important thing. We're not in danger for a number of reasons. Firstly, we're not the only club that has shareholder loan debt. Our shareholder loan debt's at about 200 million. Brighton's is at about 350 million. Everton's, and by the way, we'll talk about what mugs Everton are in a minute. Everton's is like 430 million. Chelsea's is 150 million. Liverpool's is like 70 million. In total, there are, I think, 10 teams in the Premier League that have shareholder loan debt. So we're not the only ones, but obviously they're using Arsenal because using Arsenal gets clicks. For those rules to change, they would once again have to be voted on by the Premier League clubs. If that rule change was going to massively negatively impact Arsenal in the way that those articles are suggesting it will, it would also massively negatively impact at least 9 other Premier League clubs. So good luck passing that when I think it's 12 or 13 clubs have to agree, have to approve on a new rule. So I don't think it would get approved if it seriously hurt the clubs that have got shareholder loan debt. Secondly, you can't go backwards and retrospectively or retroactively punish teams who were abiding by the rules at the time. So as it stands, Arsenal haven't done anything wrong. Any of the clubs that have shareholder loan debt, they've not done anything wrong. So you're not going to be able to go back and say, well, you shouldn't have been able to do that. Shouldn't have been able to do that. So that's fine. Thirdly, and this is something that I don't know about because I'm not an accountant and I don't understand it, but from what I've seen, accountants are saying, well, actually, what a club like Arsenal could do is convert that shareholder loan debt into equity. Now, the lender of the loan would have to agree to that, but based on the fact that it's the Arsenal shareholders, if it's going to benefit Arsenal, they will. They could convert the debt into equity and then it also wouldn't be a problem. So basically, long story short, don't fret. Don't worry. We're not in trouble. But I do think it's interesting the way, before the Premier League had even released a statement, there were a number of journalists that released articles saying Man City, big win, huge win for Man City, blah, 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 blah. That was appeared to be paid PR. Because the Premier League came out then with a statement saying, okay, Man City won on this, this, and this, but we won on everything that Man City failed to win. And the main thing that they won on was the fact that actually the APT rules themselves are necessary to avoid, anti-competitive problems in the Premier League. So it was agreed on that, yes, actually the APT rules are necessary. It's just they need to be changed a little bit because there are a few things that are unfair. So they'll probably change those things. In the main, the Premier League kind of won. Man City kind of won. The big thing that Man City didn't win on was that the APT rules themselves are necessary. That was, if Man City had won on that, if Man City had won like the entire thing, not just this little partial win on one little section, if Man City had won that, that could potentially have gone for them in the 115 case. That was the only part of it that could really have helped with the 115, and they lost on that part of it, which is good. That's important. So yeah, overall, it's a bit boring. It's a bit legally, a bit accountancy, but we're fine. City didn't really win. They threw every expensive lawyer you could imagine at it, who threw every amount of shit at it, and they got a little win here or there. And the other big thing is it means Newcastle, like fundamentally, Newcastle still won't be able to get these massively inflated sponsorships because it was agreed that the rules themselves still need to be there. They just need to change the kind of fairness of them. The other thing, the main overriding thing though, is that the Premier League are embarrassing themselves. And this I suppose would be where you would worry about the 115, is that the Premier League just seem a bit incompetent. The whole thing with Leicester City, where there was a loophole with that they lost. Like, there's a lot of these examples now of the Premier League being beaten because they were just not very good. They shit the bed, which is a problem. So I have absolutely no faith that City will be properly punished for their 130 charges case. Can just see it get dragged out, and City throwing anything like this, just like this case, probably escape with a fine. I hope not. They can't really escape with a fine. Like, you can't find people that have, you can't find people that have an infinite depth of money. It just doesn't work. I'm interested to see how Newcastle use this. Will become a bit of a free hit to boost their revenues and capacity to spend. But it won't, because the rules aren't going to disappear. If anything, the rules are going to become the rules, if anything, are going to become tighter. So this is the thing. Man City haven't won the case that they should be able to get these inflated sponsorships, as far as I'm aware. So I don't think it will benefit Newcastle. Why point fingers while you have your own problems? Yeah, I agree. The thing I bet City will regret is if they go on to lose the 115, then the league could make the punishment worse. Possibly. Apparently, Man City are now going to sue the Premier League for damages because they didn't get those two. They didn't get those two sponsorships done. So apparently, they're going to sue them for damages now. But it's. Do you know what? Right? Do you know what? In the overall landscape of football, I think we've got a big problem. And this isn't even just to do with Man City. The other day, I don't know if you saw this case with Diarra, which was an employment case, a case of employment. But that case, which had gone on for a while, Diarra won. And it basically said, in its current in its current form, the whole basis of football contracts and transfers are illegal. It basically said a footballer has the right to terminate a contract whenever they want. A footballer has the right to move whenever they want. And that's to do with employment law. That's to do with EU employment law, right? Today, Man City's case, that is to do with business competition law. It's nothing to do with football, but it's to do with like the law outside of football. And there's kind of always been this thing that football has rules that exist to make football as a product better. The issue now is if clubs and players are legally challenging those rules, you'll end up with none of them left. And if you lose all of those rules, like there's a good chance we're going to lose the idea of transfer windows at some point off the back of this ruling. How do you give an 8-year contract to a Cole Palmer who tomorrow could just say, I want to terminate my contract? And legally he'd be allowed to do that. So there are going to be these issues, I think, and this is opening a can of worms where football as we know it is just going to get completely changed to fit within the laws of the land rather than the rules of football. And I think that's a problem. I do think that's a problem. It's become who has the most money in their wallet. Yeah, exactly. Any Odegaard news? We'll talk about that in a minute. We'll talk about that. My uncle, who's a lawyer, told me once to defeat a big corporate, just go through their laws and twist them and make yourself look like the victim and bury them in paperwork. Guess City is doing the same. Pretty much. Yeah. I mean, this is the thing. City will just continue throwing money at it. They will not stop throwing money and lawyers at this problem. And that is a problem. Odegaard wasn't playing to his standards before he got injured anyway. I didn't think Odegaard was playing badly, personally. Forest and Everton are absolutely not. This is it, right? This is the one. So Everton. So basically, within this case for Man City, some teams came out to bat for Man City. Some teams came out to bat for the Premier League. So Arsenal, I think United, Liverpool, West Ham, Wolves, Brentford maybe. They all came out and gave statements in favour of the Premier League. The clubs that came out in favour of Man City, Chelsea, Newcastle, Everton, Nottingham Forest. All of the clubs that have had PSR issues, right? The hilarious one is Everton. Because the main ruling from this case was the whole shareholder loans thing that I just mentioned, right? And how at some point that could be a problem for Arsenal. So that was the main thing that they won. If that comes into effect, Everton are by far and away the club that will be impacted the most because they have more than double the shareholder debt even that Arsenal have. And so even if it is a case that they say, okay, you have to start putting down, I don't know, 5% interest on shareholder loans because that's the fair market rate. And that is I've made up that number, but 5% interest isn't, unusual. Let's say 5%. Well, for Everton, and if you're talking 5% a year, Everton have got like 450 million debt in shareholder loans. Well, 5% of that's like 22.5 million quid. So that would cost Everton 22.5 million quid on the books every year if they had to start showing that. And they're already in their own issues. So for them, they've literally come out to bat for Man City. And the verdict, if it is going to impact anyone, is going to impact them the worst. I mean, that is embarrassing. Who do you think had the hardest start of the season out of Man City, Arsenal, or Liverpool? Arsenal. Statistically, anyway. Statistically, it was Arsenal. Liverpool had the easiest. Start. Arsenal had the hardest. I mean, we've done away to Villa, away to Spurs, away to Man City. That is, that's not an easy start. Is this about that red cartel blabber? Yeah, well, yeah, kind of. I mean, I don't really understand the whole red cartel thing, to be honest. The red cartel that have won one Premier League title between them in the last, 12 years. I remember Sheffield United voted in favour of City as well. Yeah, that was a weird one. I don't know why Sheffield United did that. That was a weird one. Away to Spurs seems like 3 points. Yeah, true. City decided to go down swinging. Yeah, pretty much. Anyway, look, we've spent 20 minutes on that, and it is quite boring. Odegaard, we haven't heard much about him. Now, there have been a couple of rumours that he's been doing individual training, right? Now, that would be good, I suppose. The only thing is, individual training could be anything, right? So, Martin Odegaard has an ankle injury. It may well be that he can be in the gym. He can be doing some sort of fitness in the gym. I'm sure he can. He's definitely not taken part in any team training yet. So we don't know the full extent of the injury. I would say the same with Ben White as well. Like, we know that Ben White had an injury. We know he played through it against Man City. We've really not heard anything about it since then. We knew that he was, according to Arteta at least, maybe somewhere near coming back for the game against Southampton, but in the end he wasn't, and neither was Timber. Look, I have no issue with the club operating like this. I have no issue with the club kind of keeping all of this secret because it does benefit us. It doesn't benefit the club for everyone to know exactly who's going to be available and when. It is just frustrating as a fan base to be like, well, is Odegaard going to be back after the international break? Is Odegaard going to be back by the time we play Liverpool? So it is frustrating that we don't know that. But overall, people saying that we've not missed Odegaard. I mean, we'll bring it up. 2 seconds. I think we've still got the screen up from showing Marmouche yesterday. But we'll bring it up because for me, if we look at Arsenal's season so far, right, there is a clear difference when we have Odegaard and when we don't. And if you look at, for example, so this game, we created a lot of XG. Right? No problem. But actually, first half for a game against Southampton wasn't crazy. And we were struggling creatively. And all of us were saying, or a lot of us were saying, we need to bring on Waneri. Right? We don't need Jorginho and Havertz and Rice and Partey. We need Waneri. Well, realistically, if you're looking to bring on Waneri, traditionally you'd be looking to bring on Martin Odegaard. Rahul, thank you very, very much for the 35. I've forgotten it again. Is it South African? I think it's South African. Anyway, if that scummy club get away with it, sadly, I feel like I'll lose so much passion for the sport. Don't think I'm alone either. No, you're right. If City get away with it, it will be a humongous blow to the Premier League. South African Rands, that's the one. I was close. Yeah, if Man City get away with it, there are a lot of people that will begin to feel very, very disenfranchised by the sport. There will be a lot of people that will say, well, Man City have won, 6 out of the last 7? They've won 4 in a row, and they've got away with it. And at that point, is there any point even trying to compete? Because at that point, they'll just start breaking all the rules again if they can. So, yeah, there's a lot of people that feel the same way, for sure. But again, thank you very, very much for that super chat. The support is greatly appreciated. We've 100% missed Odegaard. Doesn't mean we've struggled or have been fine without him, but he is just such a unique player for creating space and chances. He is absolutely. So, yeah, first half, I felt like we had 70% possession, but we weren't really doing much with it. That Southampton game is less important. I forgot to say, I clicked on the wrong thing. That Southampton game's less important. The games that I think are important are like PSG, where realistically, like the creativity wasn't there against PSG. We scored from 2 set pieces, and don't get me wrong, absolutely fantastic result. And defensively, we limited them so much that all we needed to do was get a goal. But I do think Odegaard's creativity has been missed. Leicester, similar to Southampton, obviously we saw it. Bolton, whatever. Again, Atalanta away, struggled to create. against Atalanta away. I just realised you can't see it because of that thing. City fan, West Ham is easy. First goal wasn't a set piece. No, you're right. You're right. Odegaard is not only just a creative outlet for us, he's our captain. The togetherness and the leadership we have is far greater than without. Very true. No, you're right. Yeah, I don't know why I said the first goal was a set piece. The first goal was that Trossard cross into Havertz. And to be fair, that opening goal from Trossard, the assist, was absolutely brilliant. But I'm looking at it and thinking, look at how well Saka is playing, even without Martin Odegaard. That isn't a sign of we're not missing Odegaard. That is a sign of Bukayo Saka is unbelievable. Bukayo Saka, and for me, this is why I think Bukayo Saka is world class. The fact that you've taken Odegaard out, the fact that even at the weekend you take out Timber or Ben White and you've got Partey behind him who's not making any overlapping or underlapping runs. The fact that Saka is still providing that output is just testament to how good Bukayo Saka is. And I feel like we massively miss Odegaard. And then even in ways where, like, at the weekend, we had to move Havertz back into midfield, so Trossard played up, Jesus played up front. I just feel like just because we've been winning games or drawing games and we've not lost, like, that's testament to the team. It's testament to the players that have stepped up in Odegaard's absence. Trossard, Saka, Havertz, they've all massively stepped up. But I just look at how much better we would be if you added Odegaard back in. I think now, like, we've not seen a team really where we've had Calafiori at left back, Timber at right back, and Odegaard in midfield. We've not even seen that yet. And so I'm less thinking about how, oh yeah, we're fine without him. I'm more thinking about how good can we be once he is back. Because 100% we're missing his creativity. I think it's absolutely insane to think that we're not. I do think the Atalanta game wasn't just a byproduct of no Odegaard, as we were missing other players, etc. No, of course. It's like there's been no single game where we've just been missing Odegaard, so it's impossible to tell exactly how each game has been influenced by not having him. But to suggest that we've not had, performances that would have been better were he there is, I think, crazy. Lee Gunner said Saka was shit and his assists weren't even proper assists against Southampton. Yeah. One assist where he wins the ball back high up the pitch and just plays a decent pass into Havertz's path, and one where he an unbelievable ball in where he puts it onto a plate for Martinelli. Okay, buddy. Newcastle Chelsea are harder than Spurs Villa, so shut the F up, you delusional. Wow, Smithy's taken some heat. Smithy has taken some heat from Man City fan 1234. Newcastle Chelsea are harder than Spurs Villa, so shut the F up, you delusional Smithy. Arsenal fans, Spurs bottle it to Brighton. You have the easiest rivals you can have, so shut up. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have quite the intellectual in the chat. We have quite the intellectual that's joined us on this Monday evening with the Kevin De Bruyne PFP. Well, that is fantastic. I mean, Aston Villa are the ones that are in the Champions League, and Tottenham are the ones that are in the Europa League, whereas neither Chelsea or Newcastle are. But, West Ham away, no, that's difficult. That is difficult. Interesting. Easiest rivals when United are 14th. Yeah, that is a fair point. Your City rivals are Manchester United. That is, that is a fair point. Arsenal have had a way harder. Yeah, Arsenal have had the hardest fixture. It's not even me making it up. It's Opta statistics. Like Opta's statistics, Arsenal had the second hardest start in the Premier League. Ipswich had the hardest. At least United 3 UCLs. At least United 3 UCLs were our Tottenham. Couldn't even spell Tottenham correctly. That is sensational. United do have 3 UCLs. They're also currently sat in 14th. By the way, do join Big Up Streams, fun as hell. Yeah, Big Up Streams, formerly known as TIFO. I think we're going to go live for the England game. The next stream will be the England game, whenever that is. When do England play? Do we play on Friday, is it? When do we play? Oh, Thursday. Yeah, Thursday night against Greece. Thursday night against Greece will be live on Big Up, formerly known as Tifo, for the watch along. The link to Big Up is down. I think it's still Tifo, but the link down in the description. But yeah, it'll take you there. Who are England? Greece. Yeah, England play Greece and then Finland away. They're the two games that we play. Let's guess it's the Dark Arts. By the way, did anyone notice it? Just want to show you something, by the way, that out of curiosity, don't know if anyone noticed this. You know how after we went to Man City away, had 10 men, and did a little bit of time wasting, there were bloody articles about it left, right, and centre. We're having thought pieces about Arsenal's use of the Dark Arts. Because we time wasted a bit whilst down to 10 men away at Manchester City. I don't know if anyone saw this. Don't know if anyone saw this. Man City at home to Fulham with 11 men got 3 bookings in injury time for wasting time. At home to Fulham with 11 men. Ederson and Bernardo Silva both booked for time wasting. Did you see any articles about that? Did you see any articles or thought pieces about how Man City used the Dark Arts? Or not? Because I didn't see any. But I assume they're all out there. They must be out there. But I didn't see them. So the entire chat seems to be arguing with Man City fan 1234, which is mildly amusing. Literally, I was trying to read the comments. Everyone is just mocking this Man City fan. Unbelievable. Football punditry is just garbage. Michael Owen keeps that narrative going. Oh, football punditry is terrible. The issue with I'll tell you now for free, the biggest issue I currently have with football punditry is when the sort of bullshit that you would normally see on Twitter, the sort of thing that Twitter accounts that put steak logos on pictures would normally put on Twitter, it's when the things that they say are somehow actually being used as genuine talking points by people on mainstream media. So as an example, Jamie O'Hara talking about Bukayo Saka and actually saying that assists from corners don't mean anything or they're worthless. I think that sort of thing is where I'm like, okay, this is actually a problem at this point. Now, don't get me wrong. You know, Jamie O'Hara is a complete tool and I shouldn't take what he says seriously. But I do feel like it becomes a problem when those ridiculous talking points from like fans on Twitter behind fucking Cole Palmer PFPs are actually then taken into the mainstream and used as mainstream talking points. I think that's problematic. Do you think Tommy will be fit enough to start against Bournemouth? I worry that Partey will get exposed more if he's starting at right back. I think Timber will be fit. I think Timber will be fit to play against Bournemouth, and Ben White might be as well. Neither of them are going on the international break. So I'd be very surprised if in 2 weeks' time, when we get off the international break, at least one of Timber and Ben White aren't available. It's so crazy to look back at clips and everybody said Havertz was the worst signing of the summer last year and everybody agreed. Yeah, I never agreed. But yeah, it was The Athletic, right? The Athletic ran an article about how Havertz was the worst value signing of the summer. And now they're having conversations on TalkSport about whether 60 million was a bargain. It's crazy. It is crazy. But look, I thought that was interesting. In terms of how Arsenal's start to the season's gone, though, in general, are we all pretty happy? Are we all pretty happy with Arsenal's start to the season? Like, I think, fixture-wise, if you'd said, after this start to the season, with City away, Tottenham away, Villa away, I think if you'd said that we'd make it to this international break, we'd be 1 point off top. we'd have taken it. And then if you threw in the fact that, okay, you're also going to be without Odegaard for a fair amount of it, you're going to have 2 games where you're down to 10 men, Declan Rice is going to miss a game through suspension. I think if you've thrown those things into it as well, then we'd have definitely, if you've told me Thomas Partey was going to be playing at right back at one point, then I think we'd have definitely taken it. And the same with the Champions League. If you'd said you're going to take 4 points from 6 away at Atalanta and at home to PSG with those Premier League games around it, I think we'd have taken that as well. So yeah, overall, I'm relatively happy about the start of the season, which is good because going into the last international break, or especially coming off that international break, I think we were all quite negative. We'd obviously had the draw against Brighton, which was frustrating. Rice was suspended, Odegaard was injured, so it was all quite doom and gloom. But I feel like this kind of it's weird. It is like at the start of the season that it's kind of you're split into blocks between each of these international breaks, and I'd say this block has been a success. This block has definitely been a success, and hopefully the next block will be a success as well. That next block, I mean, the next block is difficult as well, but this is the next block, actually. I'm pretty sure it's an international break after that game against Chelsea. So the next block is Bournemouth away, Shakhtar home, Liverpool home, Preston away, Newcastle away, Inter away, Chelsea away. So I'm pretty sure that is the whole. Yeah, then it's an international break before we're home to Forest. So another big block, big block. I think Champions League wise, 2 games, you'd say, again, probably take 4 points. You'd be relatively happy, I think. Beating Shakhtar at home, drawing to Inter away in a game that's wedged between Newcastle away and Chelsea away. I think you take 4 points in the Champions League. And then Premier League, what would you want? I mean, if 3 points from Bournemouth, beating Liverpool would be massive for us, but you'd probably take a draw, worst case. Probably beat Newcastle away based on how they're playing, and then beat. Realistically, from how many points? There's what? 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 12 Premier League points available. You want to be taking 9 or 10 points, really, from those 12. Another thing, as a lifelong Man City supporter since 2023, I have to make something clear. I am not a glory hunter. I started supporting this beautiful club right after we won the treble. There we go. Says Man City fan 1235. Absolutely sensational. I lost all respect for the mainstream media since Neville tried to make Arsenal fans scapegoat Xhaka after May 2022 defeat to Newcastle. Basically tried to get death threats and racist abuse thrown at him too. Yeah. I agree with that, to be fair. I do agree with that. You're right. The mainstream is a problem. But look, there are more and more opportunities for proper Arsenal fans to get into the mainstream. I look at that. Talk Sport for me is a. I've been on a Talk Sport thing on YouTube myself. I've seen other content creators go on Talk Sport and represent the club well. Equally, I do think Talk Sport is one of the worst in terms of some of the clickbait stuff. And, like Jamie O'Hara's show with Jason Cundy, I think is one of the most horrific things on the planet. But one thing they are doing is this new Inside Arsenal, which is a fully Arsenal show. And the fact that they've got Clive on it, I think is a really good sort of sign of progress, because they're the sort of fans that we want representing the club. And the fact that he's going to be on there is really good. So look, there's room for everyone, and some of the stuff the mainstream do is good. I even like the overlap. What's the fan thing of the overlap, whatever it's called, when they get the fans on? I think that is quite decent as well. But have you seen the Arsenal season ticket holder roaming around the Emirates with a 666 number jersey and the name Dark Arts? Yeah, unbelievable. Yeah, if you've not seen this, there's a guy that's been going to Arsenal games, apparently a season ticket holder. And on the back of his Arsenal shirt, it says Dark Arts and then 666. That is sensational. That is sensational. Now, do you know what? Look, we're about to go into the old guess the goal scorer. Man City fan 1234. It has been absolutely fantastic to have you on board this evening. You've provided entertainment for the chat. I hope you've enjoyed it. Obviously, it's a spectacular use of your Monday evening to come into an Arsenal fan channel and try and argue with everyone. Sure, that's one of your many accomplishments in life that you've managed to do that this evening. And I wish you all the best. We're not going to block you. We're not going to block you. So if you do want to carry on, you can. But maybe just reflect a little bit. Worst thing about creators is this was all started from AFT bullshit since 2014. Yeah, pretty much. Look, AFTV now I don't have much of a problem with. AFT back, the issue was back in the day, AFTV provided a model for success that is not good for a club. And obviously people still use that model of success to this day. It is just unfortunate that we live in a clickbait era where mainstream media, using Arsenal especially, just write the headline that will wind the most people up, which makes them click the links. Yeah, 100%. 100%. Man City fan 1235 says, please ignore Man City fan 1234. He's a fake plastic fan. He's my friend and was supporting Real Madrid till 2023 and only just started supporting Man City. Not a lifelong loyal fan like me since 2023. Sensational. Any news on Havertz's injury, or was it just proactively taking him off international duty? I'm pretty sure it was just taking him off international duty. There's been zero news about the knee injury. I'm 90% sure Mikel Arteta looked at what happened to Martin Odegaard and said, I am not having that again. We are not losing Kai Havertz in any way, shape, or form. So, yeah. I would put it this way. If we get to the first game after the international break and Kai Havertz isn't playing, I'll be shocked. I will be shocked. Is Marino going with Spain? Yes, Marino is going with Spain. I don't mind that. As long as he plays. If he goes with Spain and then doesn't play, that will be frustrating. If he plays, it's fine, because I do think he needs to get up to match fitness. If he goes and doesn't play, then it's just kind of 2 weeks where he could have continued learning with Arsenal that have been wasted. So we'll wait and see. Anyway, it is time for Guess the Goal Scorer. I'm going to give you all of the information about an Arsenal goal, and you have to guess who scored the goal and against which club. So remember, you need to give the name of the goal scorer and the club that the goal was against. First person to get it right in the chat wins the immense pride and respect of the RoryTalksFootball community. So get your fingers on your keyboards, because we are starting now. This goal was scored with the right foot. The goal was assisted by Samir Nasri. It was scored in the 83rd minute. It was scored at the Emirates. It was in a 2-1 win in February 2011. A right-footed goal assisted by Samir Nasri in the 83rd minute at the Emirates in a 2-1 win in February 2011. Who was it? And who was it against? And the first person to get it right was Ethan Udall. It was indeed Andre Arshavin against Barcelona. Ross Lawman was a very, very close second. Third was VV Vlad. Fourth was Fizzy. And fifth was Ryan Henderson. There we go. Very well done to Ethan Udall. What a goal, by the way. What a goal. Did you know what's crazy, though? I was writing this out thinking genuinely there might be people watching this that weren't even alive when that goal was scored. And that makes me feel like an unk. I can't even lie. I remember this one. I don't. I was 3 when it happened. Yeah, exactly. Oh, God. Makes me feel old. I remember it from the iconic Martin, the commentary. That was Martin Tyler in his prime. It was unbelievable. What a goal. That must have been one of our best home wins at the Emirates. Yeah, I wish I'd been there, man. I wish I'd been at the Emirates for that. They're the sorts of moments where now I'm at the Emirates for every game. Like, I need those. I mean, we've had plenty of them over the last few years, to be fair, but I don't think any of them have been the equivalent of scoring a winning goal against Barca. Yeah. You've started spamming. You've lost the chat. And you're gone. He's gone. Unfortunately, Man City fan 1234 has left the building permanently. Sucks. It's a shame, but it had to be done. Started as a fan in 2010, and this game was one of the first ones I watched. Sensational stuff. See, it's that sort of thing that will keep you supporting a club until 2024, even when they're in the mud. Even when they're in the mud. Right, it is now time for Guess the Non-Gooner. I'm going to give you the entire career path of a player who does not and has not played for Arsenal. And you have to guess who that player is in the chat. First person to get it right with the immense pride and respect of the RoryTalksFootball community, but not as much respect as Ethan Udall currently has. This player started their career at Danubio FC. They went to Palermo. They went to Napoli on loan. They then went to Napoli permanently. They then went to PSG. They then went to Manchester United. They then went to Valencia. They then went to Boca Juniors. So Danubio FC, Palermo, Napoli on loan, Napoli permanently, PSG, Manchester United, Valencia, and Boca Juniors. Who was the first person to get it correct? It was... It was VV Vlad. He's back on top. He is back on top. It was indeed Edinson Cavani. It was Cavani. VV Vlad was first. Second was Ryan Henderson. Third was Ross Lawman. Fourth was 2K Dav. And fifth was Talent. So there you go. Congratulations. VAR has confirmed goal given for VV Vlad. Absolutely sensational. Absolutely sensational. Emilio has joined right at the end of the show. Honestly, people call me late. Look at the state of Emilio. You've done him before, haven't you? Very possibly. Unlike Guess the Gooner, which I kept track of, I've never actually kept track of the Guess the Non-Gooners. So if we have done that one before, I apologize. I do apologize. But anyway, look, that is going to be the end of the show. I'll be live on Twitch later. We might actually have to start a career mode, which I don't even want to do, but there's a bunch of objectives that mean I might actually start a career mode. So tune into Twitch at 10:30 to see if we do that. Link is down in the description. If not, I'll be back live on here as normal tomorrow. I think I'm on Dan Potts' channel tomorrow as well, actually, at 1 o'clock. So if you're a fan of Dan Potts, then feel free to tune into that. But yeah, otherwise, please do click the like button before you jump off. Click the subscribe button, and I will see you all tomorrow. Goodbye.